Hello, everyone. How are we doing?
Hello.
Welcome back to the Gayming Podcast Live, everybody. How is everyone doing today?
Doing good. How are you?
Good. Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday. Yeah,
it's
true.
Very sunny over here in New York, and I feel the serotonin rushing back to my body. I don't know if you also felt like the winter sadness, but
see, I'm very much an autumn winter person, so this is summertime sadness for me, unfortunately.
Not the summertime sadness.
Yeah.
It's basically summer here all the time, so
that's right.
Anyway, welcome back to the Gayming Podcast Live. I'm Angeles. I go by she, her pronouns. And on this special DigiPride edition of the show, we're going to dive into the most curiously captivating queer conversations on the web. That is a tongue twister. I'm so impressed with myself.
I love
that. Thank you so much. I'm trying my best. DigiPride is presented by Healthy Sexual, Wizards of the Coast, and Xbox, and sponsored by Devolver Digital, AT&T, and Marvelous. Chat, how are we feeling?
People are still waking up.
I know.
I think so.
Yeah, it's okay. We'll get some hype in chat. Anyway, today we're continuing our series of DigiPride Roundtable specials, and today we are joined by a selection of AAPI creators. So everyone give a very warm welcome to Deenuglife, Lunarivalkyrie, and NicoMalaon.
Hey.
Hello, everyone. So anyway, massive welcome to the podcast. Thank you all so much for taking the time to chat today.
No, perfect. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for having us here.
Amazing. Well, before we get started, Gayming wanted to give our listeners a chance to get to know each of us a little better. So we're going to introduce ourselves and tell you about what we do. So I can get started. I'm Angeles. I am a Twitch streamer. I play a lot of gacha games, unfortunately for my wallet, but I also do really fun things like hosting and talking with wonderful queer and AAPI creators. So I'm really excited as an AAPI person to be hosting today. So I will pass it on to Lunari.
Okay. Hi, my name is Lunarivalkyrie, also known as Yakuza Mom. I go by she, her. I'm a variety content creator, mainly on Twitch. Play a lot of different games. League, Apex, Turn or Return. The list goes on. My to-do list is even longer. It's quite intimidating. But I'm really happy to be here. This is so fun. I'm honored to have been invited and meeting everyone.
Yeah.
Amazing. We're happy to have you here. And who wants to go next? Nico?
Sure, I can go next, if that's okay.
No.
Cool. No, not allowed.
No, absolutely not.
No. All right, I'm leaving. Bye. Nice having you.
No, come back.
But hi, my name is NicoMalaon. My pronouns are they, she, sha. I'm just a non-binary Filipino queer that plays too many video games, but my forte is playing a lot of FPS games, so I dominate in those type of games. So I play a lot of Fortnite. Yeah. Just saying. If you want me to carry you, I can drag your or
Drag my behind.
Wait, I can drag your
my butt.
Never mind. I was so close. But yes, drag your butt.
Your tits.
My backpack. But yeah, so I play a lot of Fortnite, Rainbow Six Siege, a lot of FPS games, too much. But yeah, that's me. Hi.
And last but not least.
Hi everyone, my name is Deenuglife. My pronouns are he, him. I'm a Twitch Final Fantasy 14 content creator, so I kind of focus mainly on Final Fantasy 14. Do some writing from time to time, but yeah, I'm over on Twitch, Twitter, TikTok, everywhere. Doing all the VTuber content. If you couldn't tell.
Really? You're a VTuber?
Yeah, sorry. Yes. Immersion has been broken. Unfortunately, I'm not a demon fawn IRL.
No, the fourth wall is just crashing right now. Anyway, great stuff. Before we get started, let's take a quick look about how you can keep yourself healthy in all situations with the following video from DigiPride partner Healthy Sexual.
Honestly, no one wants to think about HIV, but there are things that everyone can do to help prevent it. It starts with getting tested regularly. If you're HIV negative, you and your healthcare provider can decide if PrEP may be right for you. PrEP means routinely taking prescription medicine before you're exposed to HIV to help reduce your chances of getting it. And it can be 99% effective when taken as prescribed.
Talk to a healthcare provider about all your HIV prevention options. Our health is worth protecting.
Nice. Beautiful stuff.
Nice.
Yeah.
Great
Love it.
stuff. Shout out to our sponsors. We love you guys. All right. So this is a very special roundtable podcast. We're just gonna dedicate all our time today for the big question, like all caps big. Today we're asking, this is drum roll for the big question. What does AAPI month mean to us? And that is American or Asian American Pacific Islander month for those of us in the US. So I guess my first question for you all, and I'll start. What does AAPI Heritage Month mean to you, and why is it important? I'm Asian American. I'm Chinese. I grew up here. And for me, this month means that, and also right before Pride, the next 2 months, everyone has to be nice to me.
That's a requirement.
No,
True,
otherwise you're
yeah.
canceled.
This is the shield we have for the literal 2 months of the 12 months that exist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Then after that, we don't exist anymore. Like
Exactly. Oh, there
You know what?
it
I'll
is.
enjoy the 2 months.
that's right. Yeah, I'll take it.
We just disappear.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, exactly. No, but really, what does AAPI Heritage Month mean to you? Why is it important to you?
So like for me, and I don't this and this is like coming from someone from the UK, is I personally, at least since I've existed online, haven't really seen AAPI celebrated or mentioned as much as it has been until the last couple of years. I feel like before, and specifically at least from my personal point of view as well, pre-COVID, it wasn't celebrated. It wasn't really as widespread as it was, post-COVID or during COVID. And so for me, especially now, seeing kind of like mentioned and brought up, I do feel like at least myself, the visibility that we kind of have in the world now is now something more than just, unfortunately, things like this always come after the aftermath of something really negative. It's now attached to something more positive, for me, seeing AAPI content creators, API month, it's great. Like for me, it's wonderful, but it's sad that it's only really become a thing, again, from my point of view, in the last couple of years or so.
That's really interesting. Yeah, I think obviously a lot of crazy stuff. I'm being very Twitch front page friendly. I almost said a word. A lot has happened in the past few years, right? So I think it's like very, especially concerning the like Asian API community. So it's fascinating that from America, and I grew up in a place with like a lot of like Asian people. And I think as I've gotten older, I've like really gone through a lot of like back and forth with like my own identity. And so for me, it's just like this month is really nice where I'm like, I'm so proud. We have dank food,
Oh, hell yeah.
yeah. What about everyone else here? Like what, how has everyone celebrated AAPI month? Like why is it important to all of us here?
Kind of going after, more on what you said. I definitely use this month to definitely be proud of who I am. I love my culture. I'm Japanese Filipino too, but definitely I'm more in touch with my Japanese side. I love eating all of our food, going out. I really want to go to Abundance again. I haven't gone since I was a kid, but I have no idea when we have them here or who's gonna go with me. But I love it. I just so happy, especially seeing everyone else in the community get celebrated too. Makes me very happy.
I think that makes you realize just how many people fall under that kind of very broad umbrella term, right? Like
Yeah.
AAPI and all those things where, I feel like, and this falls for a lot of, heritages and ethnicities, is people tend to say the word Asian and then leave it at Asian. And you forget like just how big the diaspora is for like when you say the words like Asian, right? Because you have East Asian, Southeast Asian, South Asian, Middle Asian. There's so much that encompasses like all of that. So similar to what Lunari just said, it's nice to be able to see everyone kind of like, and it's sad we need a month, but we have this platform we're given this month now where everyone's able to like stand up and everyone's kind of like, I love that. I love the kind of the education process that comes with it also is, people feel comfortable in this point in time asking like, what's this, what's that? What are you doing here? Like, what is that dress you're wearing? What is that kind of, uniform? Like things like that to me is like, I like it. That's AAPI for me, a nice platform we have to be able to help educate other people too.
I definitely
sure.
agree.
Yeah, adding on to D as well, like I think like having this month is also like educating people about, you know, not only our culture, but, you know, who we are and our identity and stuff like that. So it feels nice to have this solidarity amongst like within like the AA and HPI folks, you know, like, I don't know, it just feels nice to celebrate ourselves and like the joy that we have when we talk about our culture or talk about ourselves, you know, so.
Yeah, I agree. And also there's just so much like media attention on us, right? Like who here has seen everything everywhere all at once?
Yeah.
Yes,
Right. Mm-hmm.
Who else cried?
of course.
It's funny. I brought my mom to, and she fell asleep.
Stop.
She fell asleep.
Oh no.
I was literally like, Mother, please listen, please learn. She, right, asleep in the theater. But it's like, so it's nice. Also, just like at the tail. I don't know if it's like a tailwind, but like especially in like the States where it's like all this Asian media is really being pushed through. I guess to just continue that celebration. Like we're really, I feel like we're really winning this year, which is, I'm so proud, right?
Yes.
We should win every day, honestly.
I agree.
I don't think we are. I just don't think people are seeing it. I think that's the sad part of it, is right. You know, something to what you mentioned earlier, Nico, is I feel like sometimes kind of downfall of Heritage Months is like you're kind of put on this platform early, and then people are kind of like have the spotlight on you, and then afterwards it kind of tapers off. But like similar to what Angela just said, like I do feel like now we have kind of that momentum going. It has been one of those things where it's been dub after dub for a lot of, you know, like Asian folk. So we're, again, hoping that kind of continues.
I love that. Dub after dub. It's true.
Dub after dub. just channeling Nico's FPS energy. I'm like, let's get those dubs, let's get those chicken dinners, let's get those Fortnite wins. Let's go.
Exactly.
Classic AAPI W. W's in chat only.
Yes.
No one do that.
What? W? Here.
Definitely. And like why is this important for all of you to see this, like I guess all the dub after dub? Like I think for me, I think I grew up obviously like not seeing a lot of Asian representation in Hollywood, which is media, which is very important to how society is perceived. And also like after a wave of like crazy few years, and we can dive into that like later, like let's table that.
Let's save that for later.
We will. We'll put a pin in that.
Rewind.
Oh, absolutely. We got to get into that. But like for me, it's nice to be, you know, celebrated. And I think D-Dug and Nico, you guys were talking about like having the space to have questions being asked, to see our culture on display. Versus I think growing up like and being in, for me, predominantly white communities. As I've gotten older, it's like really nice to have this space and the representation.
I resonate with that so much. It was one of those things where like growing up, I was in a predominantly white area only. And I think I inadvertently did like, not erasure, but you know, when you suppress it, you don't mention it as much. Like I know I didn't bring cultural food to school because, you know, questions about what's that smell? Like, what's that thing you're eating? Like having to explain that to me was stress. And the thing is, I didn't have anyone to look at to be able to mimic like and say, this is fine. Like this is okay to like bring, this is okay to eat. It was just one of those things where it wasn't something that I saw. Again, similar to what Angela just said, now on the media, it's more than just stereotypes. It's more than just, you know, picked traits that they kind of like put into media for people to look at. It's people living. I know on Netflix, there's a character called Sri Devi in one of these Netflix shows. And for me, being able to see a South Asian person kind of sat there, like talking about like something as silly as just samosas and like seeing them eat with their hands on TV. Like for me was like one of those kind of like amazing experiences where I'm like, if I had that when I was growing up, I wouldn't have tried to like hide it or like normalize, almost, you know, whitewash myself to try and survive. Because that's the biggest thing as well. It didn't come from a place of shame. It was more just a case of I needed to be able to exist in this world without kind of like getting grief. So now having AAPI month and having all of these kind of things put on show has been so empowering for me.
I love that for you. Everyone deserves to feel empowered and you know not have to fit in with the status quo or whatever just because they don't understand. Like,
yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I feel like, I mean, getting into that, like, I think food is obviously a huge deal. It's like, for me, like food, it's like the cut fruit thing where your parents will like cut up fruit, hand it to you. I don't know if this is something for you guys. But that's how my parents express love.
Yeah,
I know. So it's deep when you can't bring your food to school. It hits so deep because that's like your main form of affection. You're being yeah. Anyway,
right.
Yeah.
If they can't say it, they just show it. You know, they show it through food. So.
Yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
And I guess moving on, I think, obviously we're all streamers and getting into that. This is a huge question. We're going to dive in, but what's your experience being AAPI on Twitch?
Oh, I can just steal the microphone. It's like I recently became a VTuber for work privacy reasons, but beforehand I was a flesh tuber. And
see, I just learned that term when y'all told me this. I was like, a flesh tuber?
I'm so sorry. That sounds disgusting.
You weren't here for that in the beginning, were you?
I missed this conversation. I am disturbed.
But I was a flesh tuber, and I know, and this is again, bear in mind, before we had tags. So, I've been streaming on Twitch for about 4 or 5 years now. And so very early on, it was so incredibly hard to find other content creators who were like me. I can tell you, like, straight off, like, I used to play World of Warcraft. That was my game back then. And I could, like, in the 3 years I was on, Twitch streaming it, I can count on one hand how many, like, POC people, how many Asian people I found streaming that game. And so for me, at least now, we have kind of those tools we have to find, Asian American, Asian, Hispanic. We have, Singapore. We have people from Malaysia. I can just, I click of a tag, quickly find people to connect with. And so for me, it has been one of those things where I feel like we're growing, we're getting into a better place with it. But it has been hard to kind of connect initially, at least. It felt very isolated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm sure, especially with the fact that you're not a flesh tuber.
Yeah, exactly. And especially like now, it's one of those things where it's hard for people to kind of understand, which is why on like Twitter, for example, I constantly break immersion. I'm just like, because I think there was a point in time actually on my stream where someone came in and they were talking about culture difference, and I kind of had to be like, this person doesn't know that like I'm brown skinned and South Asian. So I kind of tell them like, hey, no, my parents are from Sri Lanka. Like I'm also like South Asian. We like talked about to have this kind of conversation about visibility, because it is one of those things where sometimes now I'm behind a model, a VTuber model, is kind of one of those things where people don't know my story, which is why sometimes I find it's important, and people sometimes misconstrued like being loud with just letting people know that I'm there, if that makes any sense. So some people are just like, why do you constantly talk about it? Why do you always mention it? I'm like, if I don't, you'll forget. And like to me, that's like a thing I want anyone to do. Like I want people to know that I'm there, So like again, very much where I can always like talk about my background, my history, my parents, like all that sort of stuff.
That makes so much sense. Like I think it's so, especially, I mean, how many of us are also like queer? I mean, I'm assuming we are.
I'm pretty gay.
Oh yeah.
Whoa, I'm straight as hell.
Sound off in chat if you're queer as hell. Yeah, like that's something for me too, where I'm like, I have to keep saying it.
Yeah.
Like, you just have to be
loud and proud,
visible.
right?
Loud and proud.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Lunari, is that something you also experience as a VTuber?
Well, I guess my model kind of reflects my Japanese background. So, which is why when I became a VTuber, my community actually dubbed me the nickname Yakuza Mom. No, I don't condone any violence or gangster activities, okay? But I do kind of resonate with it because of the strong family bond that, that people do know about the Yakuza. So it's like, that's what my community is. They're not just viewers and fans and stuff. They are my family. Everyone has a safe space to be themselves. They can come relax. It's just, we don't need any more harsh realities in our space,
Yeah. Yeah. By the way, happy late Mother's Day.
Oh, thank you. Honestly, I may not have biological kids of my own yet, but that makes me so unbelievably happy. Like, I'm just like, oh.
That makes me so happy. And also, like, when you were designing your VTuber model, was it like a very active thing to be like, I want this to represent my identity?
Actually,
like,
no. I was like, I like all of these things, and I'm like, wow, this is what happened. You know what? That's perfect. What a great coincidence.
See, I think for me, it was like one of those things where I used to, and this is again one of those things where like I've never been in a conversation have these conversations before, but I've had, I think, 7 or 8 back and forths about skin color when it came down to like getting my model's skin color done, because the standard would always be, like a Caucasian color would be like the color that was the kind of the standard, and I'd have to come back and be like, here's a picture of me, here's my reference photos. I needed to get darker, and it was like, it's just like kind of like darker. It's just okay, darker. And like I'm glad we're able to have these conversations, but it was one of those things where I needed people to know that like my model was a POC model. Like it wasn't, it was a dark skinned character that I was kind of happy to play with based on my D&D characters. So for me, yeah, there's a lot of back and forth processes for me.
Yeah, I'm glad that artists and the communities, they're adapting to that a little bit better now. But I do constantly see the drama on Twitter. I'm like, please, guys, it's not that hard.
It's really not. Yeah, and Nico, I also am curious about like what your experience is about for being AAPI on Twitch.
Oh yeah. So I've been streaming since 2017, and during around this time they had communities back then, and I don't know if y'all remember that, but that was like way back when. Yeah. So for me, I was like, oh, where can I find more like Filipinos, on here? And it was really, really hard, at first. And I was like, you know what? Let me be the representation that I want to be. So I was like, especially when I play, first person shooters, you don't see, it's very, male, white dominated space. And so it's like, let me be this like fat, brown, like queer person, like dominating the space. And so I did. And so I got a lot of flack for it because it's like, oh, especially when they hear my voice, they're just like, I mean, as a non-binary person,
Right.
But they're just like, oh my God, you're a girl, you suck. And I'm just like, no, I don't. I can mess you up.
Yeah.
And I do.
Yeah.
I'm just like,
good.
Exactly. And so, yeah, no, like as a, like what I was mentioning about, like, I wanted to be the representation that I want to see, being a person who is like, outwardly brown, I talk about my culture a lot within my stream and my spaces. And it's nice to have people who are willing to accept me for who I am and like letting me talk about my culture and letting me speak my language all the time. So, so it's really, really nice. Like so far, like I'm pretty sure we all have met, or dealt with a lot of trolls and stuff like that. And people who are being very outwardly racist. And so, I take that time actually to like educate them, like sometimes people just don't know. And I like to give the benefit of the doubt, but sometimes unfortunately we have to deal with things like that. So, but other than that, it has been pretty great. So
FPS games are mental work.
Yep.
Like,
But have you played League? But have you played League of Legends?
Oh yeah, people would. I was like, oh, maybe I should get into playing League, and then people were like, no, don't do it. And I was like,
No.
wait, why?
as an arcane enjoyer, like I'm like, I literally was like, ooh, should I play League? Like,
It's a great game. The community is just awful.
yeah, I know. Yeah,
That's
the
what I
nice
heard
thing,
a lot too.
the nice thing about League is there's no voice chat. So
True, but
Oh,
and then now
yeah.
you can turn off the chat, but
Doesn't help.
no, not exactly.
Ugh, that's
It's
rough.
okay. Once you get into it, you can't escape it though. So
Ooh.
that is
Yeah.
my life.
I've never been. I did start playing League because of Arcane, which is a
Okay,
bad
that's
call.
fair.
It's a bad call. I've never been so angry in my life. Like the emotional like turmoil I'm in. Where I'm like,
Yeah, no.
I'll have a good game. I'll be like, I'm like a god gamer, and then like I'll have a horrible game, and I'm like, I'm useless. Like I'm
Yeah.
nothing. It's
Real quick.
horrible. Yeah. That's hilarious. No, but that's so interesting. I think we keep going back to community, and I'm like really curious about, like obviously being a Twitch streamer, you have to be very actively thinking about your community. And like Lunari, you said something about family, and like for me, like being so visibly queer and Asian, I think a lot of my viewers and people in chat are also queer and Asian. So I think it's so important to be so visible, and also like didn't expect to be like, maybe I'm a role model, but making sure that I'm so out and proud and like about who I am, like being Chinese American, being queer. And I wonder if that's something that you all have to think about too actively.
Mm-hmm.
I think
definitely-
sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was like I mentioned before, because I'm a VTuber model now. It is one of those things where for the first 3-4 years that I was not a VTuber.
You can say flesh tuber, it's fine.
I cringe every
I
time.
was
Yeah.
a flesh tuber. Yeah, like it was definitely one of those things where it didn't even occur to me in my head that I would need to talk about it, because like you said, I was visibly there, right? And in my head, it was one of those things where And it was baby steps for me, understanding like what, like you mentioned before, like you put it in quotation marks, like as a role model. It was, I wasn't aware like who I was to other people, right? Because for me at least, I was touching on what Nico said also. I wanted to be the kind of visibility that I didn't see. Like I didn't see a brown, South Asian person kind of streaming this game, so I was that person doing it. But I also didn't realize, similar to what I'm seeing on Netflix, what I'm seeing on Hollywood, like talking about it and like talking about my experiences, talking about what I go through is also one of those things that can resonate with people who maybe don't look like me. But also, fall under the same umbrella tree, fall under some sort of demographic that can understand it. So it's definitely been one of those things where now on the platform and kind of like having a community has been one of those things to talk about it more, make it normalized. Things that you even may think is small, like, the cutting of fruits. I like that we all resonate with that almost immediately, right? But I'm pretty sure like it was one of those things that's so natural to us, so we wouldn't think about talking about it. But doing so connected all of us immediately. Like the image of my mum coming to my door with strawberries, being like, "Have one," like here, and then like you like one item of like you've loved this snack, and then the next day there's 10 boxes of it, and they're like, "Here you go." And he's like, things like that are like one of those things where it helps build like and kind of like grow a community. So yeah, 100%.
You're gonna make me cry with the like snack thing. Oh yeah.
I know it's
That's so true. And yeah, back to sort of like the communities, but like at large, like what do you feel are some of the biggest issues affecting AAPI communities right now that you don't feel are like talked about? And I know I was like putting a pin in this one, but I'm taking the pin out.
Cool.
Ooh, gosh, there's so many. Like
we're gonna get heavy.
I know.
I don't even know where to start.
Yeah,
So,
like
literally me like my
it's like everything flooded and then
processing.
everything is just like gone.
It's too much
Yeah.
to mentally process, so you're just like, I choose to ignore it.
I don't ignore it. I just try to focus on my own stuff, do what
Right.
I can do.
Ooh. No. It's like, am I thinking too hard about it, or am I just not like? Oh gosh, that's just so much.
Well, I think so. For me, at least, like my perspective of it was one of those things where, like I mentioned at the very start when I talked about API, right? Was one of those things where I feel like, at least in the UK, it wasn't really visible until around at least like the start of COVID, like during COVID. And I know there was a lot of Asian hate around the beginning of COVID, like during COVID, and anyone that fell under the umbrella, like had a target on them. Like there was something that you went wrong. Like I remember I couldn't go a day without seeing a news article about something about a family that was targeted or a parent that was targeted or like a family that was targeted. And like, it really was so hard for me because, I think when I look at those articles, I see like my mom or like I see my sister, I see my brother. Like it's one of those things where that could have easily been someone that I knew, like myself. So I guess talking about it more, like as I'm talking, a siren just driving past. But talking about it more is one of those things where I feel like it needs to be kind of normalized and okay to do. And I think sometimes we talk about all of the positives that come with it. I think it's also important to know how we got to this point. And again, it's very, very different to what it is in the UK. But I hated that it took a lot of negativity and negative press, and I see someone mentioning in chat, for us to then put the spotlight onto being like, hey, but this is all the good that we can do. And I'm like, we've been doing this good for God knows how long. Like, like all of this positivity, all of this kind of like community development has been here from day dot, but it's only now being seen like now. And this falls for a lot of things. So I think the difficulties we have is, again, we mentioned it at the very, very start, is just keeping that going, is letting people know that we're always there, after May, June, July, August, we're still here, we're still killing it, still getting those dubs. I think for me, that's kind of the biggest worry for me, just keeping the momentum kind of going. And it's not just being one of those things where you're known for 1 month and it's just kind of gone.
For sure. Like, I think to your point, like AAPI month, I was, my mom was visiting and someone in chat asked like, where's everyone from? Like, I live in New York City. And I was like, Mom, you cannot go on the subway alone. Like, I'm going to protect you. Like, just because of like what you look like, you're like probably like you're like just more vulnerable as like a person, and like all of the like anti-Asian stuff. I definitely think that my friends who aren't, people of color, of course, like just don't understand like the constant stress that I feel of just like existing and like being outside in a city. And I think the way that like for me that manifests on Twitch is like, honestly, like in my communities, I see a lot of like Asian streamers, but I want us to talk about our identities more. Like, I think it's just, I see a lot of representation, but then it just kind of goes that far. And then I'm like, okay, but like, can we talk about the problems? Like, because there's a lot of like Asian like representation in media and stuff. And it's like, cool, like we have like delicious food and like BTS and like we love Blackpink, but like also I'm like, okay,
and yeah, 100%. Like, you know, you can't just cherry pick what you want from what you know celebrate and what you kind of like lift up. You know, you lift up everything.
Even the problems too, even the issues that we have. Like,
see the problem.
I talk about colorism a lot. You know, because you know a lot of, especially in media, a lot of people represent Asians, and then but they show off more lighter skin. You know, like the lighter complexion, and like you know, there's Asians who are darker, right? You know, there's people who are like have melanin and they're also Asian. So it's like, you know, it's just it makes me sad because it's like, oh, me as like, you know, I'm visibly brown, you know, and like people are just like, wait, you're Asian? And then they would like, you know, I'm like, yeah, like I'm Filipino. I'm brown skin. You know, there's like other Asians too, like that are, you know. So I don't know. It's just I talk about that constantly, and people are probably tired of it, but I gotta keep at it because we gotta talk about these issues. So
yeah.
I guess I grew up pretty lucky. Being in Hawaii, you know, we have a lot of Asian influence, so it's pretty normal. But it's like when I do travel, I do worry. I hear a lot of the horror stories and like stuff on the news that goes on, and I'm like, man, it's just all it takes is kind of like that one time. It's like if I go traveling and something happens, what am I gonna do? Because all my family, you know, is in Hawaii, and it's like it's scary, but I got to do it. I want it. Let that fear keep me home all the time.
True. Honestly, that you're right. Like all those TikToks I see, which is like, what's the most racist country to not go visit? And it's like, hi, look at Italy. My mum was hate crime or something. And I'm like, oh, like I hate it, but they need to like see it. They need to be talked about. They need to know that it's an issue there, because otherwise, you know, it just becomes this kind of glorious kind of like destination. It's like, well, it's actually got a lot of problems too with this and this, and like then it becomes talked about, you know. So yeah, 100% same as Lunari was saying.
I think what I like feel like we're coming back to is like, it sucks that it takes like horrific incidents to like have this all be on the news, but like we're all pretty glad it's being talked about.
Exactly.
Yeah. And like Deenuglife, you said something earlier about like safety and like just like when you were growing up, like I think this is so like important and like such a big relatable thing, but like you feel the need to assimilate and like almost whitewash yourself when you're in spaces that are like predominantly white.
I think and like the fear from that, and like it's very sad, like realistically, like tragic, that I feel like I lost a lot of my youth having to survive, but I had to do what I saw. And like that's the sad part about it. And that's why like having AAPI Month, having people on Twitch who are like outspoken and speaking about these things, is because if I had that, you know, again, like I mentioned beforehand, I wouldn't have done those things. I only had access to what I could see, and that was my life at home and then my life not at home. And my life not at home was this uncharted territory of just, you know, not me, basically. Like everything that was not me was there. So I had to like navigate that space. And so I'm grateful. Like I always like joke about this with my mum and my dad being like, you know, like I'm that man who, like the old man who's like, back in my day, we had to struggle. But like, I'm grateful that the kids and the younger generation nowadays don't have to have that. You know, like I see, you know, sex education, LGBTQI plus knowledge being taught at schools, you know, these racial awareness is kind of like boundaries that I had growing up aren't there anymore. And so like, I love seeing that sort of stuff. But it is one of those things to look at it and I'm just like, I wish I had that. You know, that small part of me, which is just like, I wish I had that.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm like, I mean, there's just so many like queer kids right now, which I'm like, yeah, like duh, as it should be. Like,
yeah, exactly.
You shouldn't assume everyone is straight. That's crazy. But I'm like, wow, like you never had to like Google, like, like, and like the sort of like struggle that comes from all that. Like, it doesn't. I feel like also like, oh, you kids, like you don't know what it's like to really fight. And I think one thing also that I want to like ask again for the group to clarify is like, where does everyone like based? Just generally, like US, like how I'm in New York, and I think someone asked that in the chat earlier.
Yeah, I'm in Hawaii, born and raised.
Yeah.
After you, Nico?
Oh, okay. Whoa. Excuse me. Well, I'm born and raised in California, but I recently moved to Washington State.
Nice.
Go everyone
I'm London, UK based. My ethnicity is South Asian, Sri Lankan.
I could not tell. There's no accent.
No London accent? Okay, yeah.
I'm kidding. Very English. Someone earlier in the chat also, I mean, we keep talking about media representation, but there's a really great question, which is, do you feel that bad press, and this is from Alicorn Gaming OG, do you feel that bad press and activities of celebs, whether like, I'm trying to like read this, A or C listers, yes, like any, like A, B, C, whatever, however visible they are, have a lot of implications on like toxic people?
That's why I feel like I kind of wanted that conversation, the question. At least the way I read it was basically, you know, if you have, regardless of where you are, if you're in the media's eyes, like, do they feel like if they do something bad, it reflects bad on like quote unquote all of us? And I think and I hate that it's the case, but especially now, while, you know, what's that saying, the iron is hot or whatever it is, while there's a lot of eyes and while there's a lot of people like looking at us and like eyes on the community, when they kind of say things or do things, and then there's been instances where people have come out with colorist comments and, you know, like I think some cast comments, some community comments, and because again, they've been, by who I don't know, but they've been put on this pedestal by Hollywood or, you know, whoever it may be, but then all the eyes looking at them are like assuming that they are then our spokespeople, you know, they're the people representing us. So I hate that it's true, but yeah, I do feel like sometimes when someone does something bad, we have to then be the like, they don't speak for all of us, or, you know, they're not, you know, they're the wrong ones, we didn't want them there. And it's one of those things where we kind of have to take those. So yes, I'm glad they've got a place and platform to talk. Yes, I also do feel like we take the bad with the good, and it is one of those things where if they say something messed up, we kind of have to take that L, unfortunately, as a community.
Yeah.
And just the fact that, you know, people need to get it through their heads. So it's like every group, no matter what it is or who they are, like there's gonna be bad apples. You cannot let that dictate how you view the entire rest of it. And I think that's really sad, and it's, you know, that's just bad.
Unfortunate. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's like, unfortunately, because Asian and this is how I see it, like where there are so few, like, why is Aquafina in everything?
Well,
I know, like,
yeah.
like,
Oh, she's so funny.
She's funny, but like, I'm like, we have only a few, like Aquafina, Michelle Yeoh, Ali Wong, like, and unfortunately they become pillars for us. So it's like when they do something bad, it's like, because we don't have so much representation, it's like, no, and it's a lot of pressure to put on like one person. But I'm like, Michelle Yeoh is like holding, like she is carrying like Asian representation in Hollywood on her very strong, very toned shoulders. But you know, she's just one woman. Right. I think another question is, we mentioned everything everywhere all at once earlier, but I wanted to ask, what are some other examples that we've all seen that have given positive love and representation to the AAPI community?
So I don't know if anyone here watches like Bridgerton or, you know, Queen Charlotte, but I know, for example, season 2 had like a South Asian kind of creator, someone who came on and was like the leading role for one of those kind of seasons, and that was kind of led by Shonda Rhimes, who does a lot of good for, I think, people of color, and especially for representing people of color, kind of giving them a platform to have those roles. So I know like Bridgerton season 2 kind of like pop off, and I love that. There's a Never Have I Ever series on Netflix, which again follows like a South Asian kind of family. I don't know if anyone watched Grey's Anatomy. Sandra Oh, like whatever Sandra Oh is on, I freaking love her so much. I follow her like religiously. So yeah, like those are like some of the shows where I feel like they've killed it. Like I'm glad, like they're people that I'm like, if I could champion them, I'd be like, yes, I want you.
Anyone else? And I also want to like hone in, which is, do we have any really positive representation in gaming, video games,
gaming?
What do we think?
Oh, I love Neon. She's a Filipino agent
from Valorant.
Yep. Which I'm very happy, and I'm just like, yes, we have something, because you don't see a lot of Filipinos often in games or in gaming or in the gaming industry in general. So I was like, yes, and it's voiced by a Filipino, which I'm very happy about it, because like when they do voice actors, they're like, oh, let's just cast this like really cool, like well-known voice actor and just like have him in it. I'm like, no, they actually like took the time and have a Filipina voice, Neon, a Filipina in Valorant, which is I think is really awesome. I know there's more, but like that's what stands out to me the most. And I'm just like, yes. And as an FPS player, that makes me so happy.
It's also crazy, like sidebar, sorry to cut you off. Like one, like they do a really good, like shout out Riot. I love Riot. They do a really good job of bringing in like elements from like the like everyone's backgrounds. Like I feel like there is a comment about from the other Asian, it's like, oh, like Neon, I gotta come over, have more Filipino food, like, and it's really nice, like that they really try to bring those very like concrete examples into video games. But Lunari, what were you saying?
Oh, I was gonna say, not really AAPI, because I'm not sure if they're Asian or not, but Apex just brought in Catalyst, who is first trans character, who is voiced by a trans voice actor, and I was just like, that is amazing for them. I don't care whatever hate is going on Twitter, I'm happy about it. That's a great step.
Also, I don't know if anyone watches like or follows Iman, like Pokimane and Offline TV, but like that house is kind of like a powerhouse. I think of like APAC content creators. You've got like Lily Pichu, I think is Korean. You've got Toast, who is Taiwanese. I can't remember. I think it was like Michael. I can't remember what they are. I think they're Filipino, but like and they're people who are in like the eye, like they're the content creators to watch for like the funny videos and the collabs and stuff. So seeing them there and like everyone, regardless of what background they're from, are like watching their content. Like I like love that.
Yeah, that's very, very cool. I think I want to move on to our next question, which is if you could give any piece of advice to AAPI creators just getting started, what would that be?
Sorry, I like took a deep breath in. I was like, I think for me, and I'm projecting a little bit, is one of those things where I'm like, don't feel like you need to make yourself smaller to be able to bring in people. I think the kind of trick or the kind of like negative loop you fall into, and this isn't specifically for APAC content, but kind of content creation in general, is you'll put up with bad eggs, or you'll kind of like mold your personality very early on to kind of retain people and try and keep the very early people in. But I think something someone said earlier, which is your vibe attracts your tribe. And so, if you are very outspoken, if you're kind of like proud of who you are, if you're outspoken of like what you believe and what you stand for, that energy will come like back to you, and you'll bring in those people with you. But I know it's very hard at the start to do that, because it is one of those things where you're looking at numbers, number crunching, and you're like, will this make it easier? If I do that, will it make it kind of grow faster? And it's like, be proud of who you are first as an identity, and then like carry that forward with you in your content.
Definitely one of my biggest mottos is quality over quantity. Like, we're all human. Numbers will bother us, it'll bring us down, but at the end of the day, you have to realize, you can have numbers, but then are they going to really have your back? That's why you should focus on cultivating a strong bond with your community, because then they'll always be there. Yes, life may take you in different directions, may keep you from coming to streams all the time, but that eventually they'll find their way back, because that's that's another home that they have. So be loud and proud, be who you are. Don't conform to the status quo. Don't pretend to be something you're not, because one, that's going to get exhausting real fast. And when you can't do it anymore and you be yourself, people are going to be like, whoa, that's what I knew you as, and then they might leave. So it's best to just be yourself, let people love you and flock because of who you are, and just you'll be happier overall, long run. You just got to be patient.
And to piggyback on both from D and Lunari, like, I mean, as cliche as it sounds, like, honestly, just be who you are, and they will accept you for who you are no matter what. They'll always be by your side, and your community will love you. So that's it. Mine's just very short and simple.
there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it doesn't have to be complicated.
It's always rough being the last one because everyone else
Yeah,
is
I was like, oh yeah, everybody said it. I was like, yeah, y'all got this, y'all got this. I was like, yeah, let me back them up.
Let's face it, if they can't accept you for who you are, do you really want them around anyways? I mean,
Right.
No.
you gotta be fair to yourself. We all deserve to be loved properly
Yeah.
and accepted. Plus, this is our spaces, right? So
Right.
Yeah. I also think it's like, I'm not for everyone. Like, and I am especially not for people who are going to be like bigoted and awful, and there's no space for you here, and I'm okay with that. So when I get down about numbers and stuff, because again, it's human, I'm kind of like, Lunari, I love what you said about quality over quantity. Like,
thank you.
I think the people that you attract, like, and also like, what's it called? Your vibe attracts your tribe. I love that. That is so good. I love a rhyme. I think that's so true. And I think we all are really I think we're all shining examples of being ourselves.
You better
and,
stop.
Yeah.
Continue.
Right. No, you got, no, I'm kidding. But yeah, I think it's, we're all very true to ourselves. I'm sure we've all been streaming for long enough to realize that, like, don't shrink yourself, be yourself. People will come.
I think I'm coming up on 8 years.
Wow. Nice.
Yeah.
I'm just over 6.
Hell yeah, guys.
Look at us.
Perseverance. But actually, though, like, that is a big, like, plus also, because I know when I first started, whether I'd, like, because there wasn't anyone like me that I was watching, or like us that we were watching, to know that we've kind of like committed and like gone on for so long kind of gives me that hope to be like, don't burn out, like don't give up. Like even if you aren't seeing the stuff that you want to see, like you're able to be that person and kind of like create it. Because I always think like one of the things that kind of like makes me happy that we're keeping on going and creating content is if I had stopped 3 years ago, would I have made the AAPI content creator friends that I have now? Would I make the connections I made now, So like some of that stuff is awesome to see, like especially that with the length of time.
Have you seen that? I mean, that's like 8 years, long time, like 6 years, long time. And I don't think people realize how bad burnout can be when you're a content creator. But do you feel that, visibility for AAPI folks has like increased? Like you mentioned, offline TV, they're huge. Like, do you feel like for all of us, gradually AAPI and queer people have been becoming more and more visible in the gaming space?
I do agree. Yes.
Yeah. And that's us. And that's amazing. We're doing it.
I think I all deserve a pat on the back, guys. We're doing it. We're making it.
I need that meme. Who'd have thought? Not me.
Not me. Not me. Not us.
Look at us striving and thriving, huh?
Yeah.
I think another thing that I think we would all agree on is if someone is AAPI and they want to be a streamer, just do it. Like,
Yeah, do it.
I feel like my parents were like, what the hell are you doing? Like, I mean, I'm not a full-time content creator.
God.
We didn't even get into this. We're
We
like
didn't
at the
start
end.
this conversation. Holy,
Yeah.
Oh, right. Oh,
Don't get me started.
yeah, no. This
Sorry,
is going to be a
not
longer.
a doctor / lawyer / engineer.
Yeah.
What are you doing with
Right.
your life?
Yeah.
Arts? Okay, homeless, I guess, by the age of
Right,
19.
exactly.
Literally.
Mhm.
Work from home, that's not a real job.
Yeah. Oh, you're not a nurse, or other than that, what are you doing?
And then I think my last question before we like bring it back to our sponsors is give me like in a few sentences, I think talking onto that, we all seem to have resonated with like our parents probably don't approve of this. What kept you going despite that? What brought you through?
For me, it was I wanted to make a difference. I cannot public speak to save my life. I can't. It's such a big fear. But streaming, it's easier for me to do. You don't have all those eyes on you. You won't be able to see their judging faces and whatnot. But I just wanted to make a difference. I wanted to give people a place where they could feel accepted. A place that I didn't have growing up. Place where you could escape from the real world, be yourself, have fun, relax, vibe with people that you share things in common with. And, I wanted also to help guide people down the right path in life as much as I could help it. And, I take that nickname very seriously because I will mom you. You will get all aspects of that. That was the warning. You knew you signed up for.
Honestly, like same. I think it's definitely changed as I've gone on. I think when I first started, like it was, how do I make friends as an adult? Like, what is this? Like, I realized having friends at university and school is easy because you're surrounded by them. But when you're an adult, like it got harder for me. So for me, it was me able to connect with people. I definitely know that over the course as I've grown and got a community, it's kind of like been that thing where I'm glad I have a place where, you know, POC people and queer people feel comfortable. Like, you know, it's one of those things where I'm sure we all have Discords or Twitters, seeing people just come in and say, hey, like, what's up? Like, it blows my mind that this person is from, like, Singapore who's typing in this chat right now. I would have never met this person if I wasn't a content creator. This person here is on West Coast, you know, US. Wouldn't be here, you know, wouldn't have met all of y'all if that wasn't the thing that I was doing. So for me, like, connecting, kind of fostering that good vibe, good energy has been definitely, like, a driving force for me.
For me, like what I mentioned also before is like I want to be that representation that I want to be, and I will always want to like fall onto that because I want more like Filipinos out there who are also like me to see like, oh hey, not only I exist but we also exist, especially in the gaming world or even in the content creation world too. So yeah, like originally I'm like, oh yeah, I'm in this to like show how good I am at a game, but ultimately I'm like, oh hey, I'm cultivating a community. Hey, I'm actually like I get to educate folks about me, and they're willing to like learn, you know, about my culture, me being Filipino. And then sometimes I get, you know, some folks who are like, what is Filipino? Or like, I didn't know what a Filipino was until like I saw you. And thankfully we have the tags, and so I'm able to be like, oh hey, I'm Filipino, blah 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 blah. So yeah, it's just like, yeah, I just want to be the representation that I want to be.
So true. For me, I'm very rebellious. Like growing up, when my parents said something, I'd be like, no, F that. Like, I'm going to do the opposite. And so when my parents were like, what are you? I mean, I didn't tell my parents about streaming. And then I started streaming and they were like, what the hell? I can't do that. And I was like, no. So I did it. And I think like to everyone's point here, it's like, I think as I've gotten like more into it, it's like that really amazing community where we get to sit and talk about our shared experiences, where it's like, there are definitely chats where like, there's a lot of weird like jokes that make like, you know, people who aren't of a certain demographic comfortable. Like, and I want to be that space. And I think we're all trying to create these spaces, and that keeps me going for people who don't see that representation in like esports teams and stuff.
Right.
Like, Nico, like especially you, like you see the FPS like rosters, and it's like
what, all white dudes, cool.
Yeah, right.
Not surprised, which is sad.
Which is another conversation, right? About like access for like people of color and you know, all of that stuff. But that's for another. Let's save that for another podcast. That being said, guys, this is great. Now I'm gonna like punt it back to our sponsors, which is AT&T, and I want to say that the AT&T Turn Up the Love Tour is back and bigger than ever. We're gonna head into some rapid fire questions, but first, let's check this out.
Turn up the love. Turn up the music. I wanna dance and you could take my hand and we could keep on moving. Turn up the love. Turn up the love. Turn up the love.
That entire VOD was a bop.
I like.
Yeah.
I love Slater. Cool. That's a cool. I love concerts. I'm glad live music is back. Lineup. Anyway, find out more about the AT&T Turn Up the Love Tour, including how it's celebrating the LGBT community, supporting the Trevor Project, and where these free events are being held by visiting turnupthelove.com. So, anyway, great concert. Let's like kind of pivot into a rapid fire question. This is like going to be a really fun time for us. I'm just going to like pew, 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 pew. As Nico's probably familiar with. Yes. We're going to pew games. Okay, so the first one, this is my favorite question, which is, who is your first video game fictional crush? Doesn't have to be video games, but fictional crush. Go.
Oh no.
I can go first, but it's horrible.
No,
No,
for it.
go for it.
Dang.
Entei from Pokemon.
Okay.
Whoa!
Robin, end the stream right now. Not you falling in love with
I
the
mean, I do like
legendary
Nala
fire
from Lion King,
Pokemon.
so.
He's hot. Nala's hot.
Nala from Lion King. Come on.
Nala's hot.
So pretty.
Straight to jail for all of
You
you.
Cuff me.
Take
Cuff
me.
it. Beyonce would
Oh.
say cuff it.
For me, it was
Shigo.
Samurai Jack. Shigo,
Oh.
true, Kimetsu. Yeah. Actually, my username was no, never mind. But like, I had Samurai was the beginning of
What?
the user.
Oh.
It was
Okay.
it was like XX Samurai. Then it was like my first name XX because I was like, okay, I want to be like Samurai Jack. And very well, like I wasn't like aware of my like sexual identity back then. All I knew was like I wanted this person to be near me like all the time. So I was like, yeah, Samurai Jack for me. I'm too not.
Mhm. I didn't figure out my identity until like almost finishing high school, and then I just look back at it. I'm like,
Yeah,
wow,
the signs.
nice.
Yeah.
So who was yours, Lunari?
Shigo,
Um,
Clover, and Raven.
I loved Raven.
Raven.
Yes.
Immaculate taste.
What was
Marceline? Marceline from
Woo!
Adventure Time, anyone?
Yep.
I actually didn't watch it.
Oh, it's
Oh.
great. It's great.
It's really
Big
good.
rag. Okay. Game that defined your childhood. Go.
Oh no.
Pokemon.
Pokemon. Yeah, Pokemon Red for me.
But define?
Fire
Yeah,
Red.
actually fair. That's valid. I'm trying to think what was the game that I played. I think for me it would have been Maple Story. If anyone played
Me
Maple
too.
Story.
Maple
Oh,
Story.
stop. Maple Story was
know
like,
I love Maple Story.
I got that. You've been playing for 6 hours. You should take a break. I'm like, shut up, Nexon. Let me carry on.
Let me farm. Let me farm my snails.
Literally. Let me head into
you,
hunting grounds. Let me live. Yeah.
Let me flirt with my boyfriend at age
Let me
8 in
F3.
Henderson. Let me F3 let me F3 like with my fake boyfriend online. Poor guy. He's probably so old. Anyway.
PC gaming though, mine was Mebanogi, which is also an Nexon game.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so toxic.
Nexon. Come back, Nexon. We miss you.
Literally.
We really
please.
miss you.
Pretty big bag servers. Anything.
Yeah, literally. All right. What is one game you think everyone should play at least once in their life?
Pokemon.
Ooh.
So like I'm a massive sap. So one of the things like I used to be an MMO, like I just cared about raiding and stuff. That was like my jam. Like from since I had a computer to like 2 years ago, and then I think Final Fantasy 14 is like good for storytelling, and so for me that kind of sparked me starting story games. So for me, one of the things I definitely think people should play is Final Fantasy 7: The Crisis Core. Like that game has a chokehold on me right now.
A good story-driven game that I loved a lot was Life is Strange: True Colors because it's so good.
Oh my god.
Like
I
that-
love Life is Strange.
Like, come on, we get to
wanna
see
play
like a
it.
queer Asian,
Yes.
like
True.
curvy person, and it's just like, wow, like I get to see this in a video game. Like that's beautiful. Like, come on.
I agree. I love Life is Strange. Mine is definitely Life is Strange. I think it's like so beautifully done. Like the whole series. It makes me cry. Like I don't like crying, but I'll do it.
Have they all ported over to PC yet? Because I didn't really grow up with consoles, so I never had the
It's
chance
on
to play
PC.
it.
It
Yeah,
is
Life
on
is Strange PC.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, defo.
What's
I
one
need
word
that.
that's sorry. We need that. But what is one word that sums up your Twitch streams, everyone? This is a hard one. I don't even have mine.
Just one?
Just one.
One?
Just, maybe a
One?
phrase. Maybe a phrase.
Like Mimi, like I just regurgitate TikTok and Vine and like like the sounds and the gifs and that's literally what my stream is, just Mimi.
Mine is
Just it.
comfy.
Oh, comfy.
Yeah.
Mine's just gay.
Just
Hell
gay.
yeah.
just gay.
Yeah.
Just gay.
Gay.
I feel that.
Just gay. Gay's the way.
Gay. Yeah.
It
Mine is
is.
gay older sister.
Oh, I love that
I'm an
so
only
much.
child. I'm like you're my family now. Like
Yep.
or yeah.
Say
You call me
less,
mother
say
if you
less.
want, but like I don't know.
Oh,
Not a
maybe
teen mom.
okay. Hold on, wait. Maybe mine is just mom.
Oh,
Yeah,
Yes,
true.
Yeah,
true.
baby.
Mom.
Yeah, baby.
mom vibes.
Love that. And then finally, where can people find you? If you can share, what projects are you working on at the moment, or do you have like anything going on in the future? Sorry, that was like so many questions.
So much, Angeles. Like, I'm just
I was like,
overwhelmed
what?
right now. And I don't know how to start.
Yeah.
No.
Where can people find you, and do you have anything like fun cooking
of
up?
course. So I'm Deenuglife everywhere. So Twitch, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube. Those are the kind of main platforms I kind of work on, upload. Do a lot of Final Fantasy 14 content, and then on Sundays we do some variety. So like I mentioned before, didn't do any story games. Kind of now working back and touching on all the classics and the good stuff that people have been talking about. So yeah, that's me.
Do you want to
Go,
popcorn
Nico, go.
someone?
Do you want me? Go
Yeah,
me?
you
Me?
go.
Me go.
You go.
Oh gosh. Okay. So yeah, hi. My name is NicoMalaon. You can find me NicoMalaon on Twitter and Twitch and Instagram. So I'll be coming back to streaming during Pride Month. I'll be playing, of course, a lot of FPS games, of course. But I do have future projects that I can't really talk about right now. But if you want to know, just follow me on Twitter, and I will tell y'all like what's going on and what's happening to me. But yeah. I'm just here and queer and ready to pew pew.
Lunari?
I'm basically Lunarivalkyrie everywhere as well, or also maybe Yakuza Mom. I'm also trying to come back to streaming. I have been dealing with some health issues, and I have been trying to get my appointment made for the rheumatologist, but lately I've been in a lot of pain, so I haven't been able to stream. But I am trying my best. Big projects coming up. Well, I have a plushie on the way. Which reminds me, I do need to. Oh my god, I have to go and reply to that. Oh, I forgot. Oops. But yeah, that's gonna be super fun. It's one of my mascots. Its name is Dongo. It is a dongo-shaped cat. I love it. I love it so much. But once I'm back, probably gonna celebrate my 8-year anniversary. I think, which is July.
Nice.
Amazing. And I'm Angelus in most places, on YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. I'm Angelus. And then I'm Angelus Talk on TikTok, and I'm Angelus.ig on Instagram, because those companies hate me. I'm kidding. I'll figure it out. Anyway, I am traveling for a bit, like personally, but I have a really fun vlog coming up of me in German. I'm just gonna do more vlog stuff basically.
Nice.
But you can catch me on Twitch. I'm trying to be, like I think everyone else, more intentional about like my Twitch streams, but gonna be playing a lot of Hoyoverse games as always.
Ooh, okay.
I have a chokehold on me.
I know. There's a new one coming out. I think Zenless is Zero something.
I'm so tired. I'm playing Honkai. Like I've already spent money. It's over.
All I know is it's like a wolf daddy, and I'm like, oh, okay, maybe for this one I'll contemplate it.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. But anyway, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. This was so fun. I feel like we should get a group hug.
Yeah,
I would love that.
I'm down for a group hug.
But since we're so far apart, we should squad up.
Yeah.
I had
We
squat
should-
up. Like, huh?
Yeah, let's squad up.
So cute. We can run some League or Valorant or
I think
Genshin or something.
Fortnite has
Fortnite.
four.
Fortnite.
Fortnite has
True.
4.
Nico, you have to
Yeah.
carry us.
I got y'all.
Oh hell yeah!
Yeah. I'm that confident. Let's go.
Love it. But yeah, thanks everyone so much for joining us today. Huge thank you to today's lovely guests, Deenuglife, Lunarivalkyrie, Valkyrie, and NicoMalaon. So thank you all so much. And a big thank you to our DigiPride partners, Healthy Sexual, Wizards of the Coast, AT&T, and Xbox, sponsored by Devolver Digital and Marvelous. So
Also, thank you, Angelus, for hosting us. Hello.
Yeah,
Yes,
hello.
thank you.
Guys.
Let's go.
Running from the subway. Legends.
sprinting around. I'm like constantly late to everything because I have like very bad ADHD. But yeah, I was like truly like knocking over tourists. Get on my way. They're everywhere right now. But yeah, thank you all, everyone. Thank you. But thank you everyone for joining us. So shout out to everyone in chat. We hope you had so much fun. You were all lovely. We were keeping up with your little questions and reading. So thanks so much for joining us on this roundtable episode of the new Gayming Podcast live season. We'll be live around the same time next week for the Let's Go Gaming DigiPride Derby. So join Esther Simone, Chi, Willow, and your host, Luke Boogie. So be sure to tune in every Sunday for more gaming, spelled with a Gayming goodness at 8 p.m. UK and 3 p.m. Eastern. And until then, follow Gayming Mag channel here on Twitch, YouTube, so you don't want to miss these shows. And of course, podcast clips will be on TikTok as well as other awesome stuff. So feel free to follow Gayming Mag on TikTok so you don't miss out. That being said, thank you all, and we'll see you next week.
Everyone.
Another shout out to our guests. Bye, everyone. We love you. Bye, Mom.